Hello, this is OverlordBou, back with another ship review video, and today we'll be looking at the new Tier 7 Royal Navy battleship, the Collingwood. Now, the Collingwood will be going into early access this patch, coming on the 13th or the 14th. To obtain her, you must gamble for her in the doubloon bundles or the loot crates, costing between 1,000 to 70,000 doubloons, depending on your RNG. Now, the Collingwood will also be available for direct purchase sometime after the event. Wargaming has not said when exactly, so we'll have to wait for that. If she drops in the first few bundles, then she's a good deal, but don't waste money as you'll be able to get her available later anyways. Again, I really do not endorse gambling any sort, like in any way, shape, or form. So the loot crates are definitely something I wouldn't invest in. But if you want it to just, I'm sorry, it's invest is a good word. It's if you don't want to put money into it, you can. If not, then don't. But again, she'll be available later on after this event, so you can always get her later on if you're interested. Another thing to note is that this ship, if you already have the Nelson, I don't think this ship is technically worth it. But I'll let you guys decide for yourselves as I go for information throughout this video. So moving on, I'll showcase the ship, and at the end, I'll go over my thoughts on the ship. Now let's talk about the recommended build. Now, the Collingwood uses the normal Royal Navy battleship build, being shown on the top right. The Collingwood behaves like a battleship, and such takes a BB build. But the thing is, you kind of want to be a little further back in how you play, since it doesn't have a super heal. So you don't have the same leeways you do with the Nelson, where the Nelson has a super heal to protect it, while this one doesn't. But moving on, for the armor and survivability, the ship has 58,500 HP, and the armor will be shown on the top right. It has 26mm bow and stern, with a 32mm deck, with a 10% torpedo protection. As you also see, it does have an above water citadel, and also has a poor torpedo protection. Now, the Collingwood's armor layout is very similar to her Tier 7 counterpart, the Nelson, differing in having a 26mm deck instead of 32mm. Unfortunately, this is not a good trait, as Nelson is generally considered squishy even with her super heal. And now, since Collingwood has an improved heal and carries thinner deck armor, she's a very squishy BB and will not last long under enemy fire. Now let's move on to the primary guns. For the primary guns, you have three twin 19mm guns with three front. It has a 19.1 kilometer base range with a 26 base reload. It does have a 2.0 Sigma with a battleship dispersion. Now, the HE shells do 6,150 damage with a 70mm HE pen with a 47% fire chance. Now, note the 1/6 HE pen and not the 1/4. Now, for the AP shell, it does 13,000 damage with a 29mm overmatch and no more ricochet angles. Now, it does have a 0.033 fuse time, which is the normal fuse time for AP shells. Now, the turret angles can fire broadside 30 degrees off of the bow and stern. It cannot fire directly aft because whoever designed the ship was insanely drunk, since all the guns are put in the front. Now, it has the same guns as the Duncan and uses battleship dispersion, but it's better than average due to the 2.0 Sigma. Now, the 419mm AP has amazing penetration, undisputed best performance past 14 kilometers. HE is fine, but suffers from low barrel count. Now, it does have an unusual turret arrangement similar to the Nelson or the Isamo. You do get access to the main battery reload booster, though. Now, the dispersion being shown on the top right will be there for about 10 seconds as we go over the rest. The Collingwood's guns are similar to Duncan's, except she carries only 6 guns instead of 9. This is a significant issue, though, somewhat offset by main battery reload booster and a higher Sigma. As she uses as she can quickly pump 2 salvos into a broadside ship, potentially swinging the match around. As she uses Tier 9/10 guns, her AP has amazing penetration and will overmatch anything Tier 7 and below. HE is also solid, but not as good as other Royal Navy capital ships at her tier. Overall, her guns are solid, though reliant of proper usage of the MBRB to make them effective. Now for the secondary armament, you get 6 twin 152mm/40 guns with 2,150 HE damage with a 12-second reload and a 25mm pen. You also get 6 single 120mm/45 guns that do 1,700 HE damage, 5-second reload, and a 20mm pen. Now these do have a base range of 5.6 kilometers and have a normal BB secondary accuracy. Like most BBs, it does have poor secondary performance, so do not build into the secondaries, please. Now for A defense, you get 1 inner flat cloud. Oh boy. Ugh. The far DPS is 49, the mid is 231, and the near is 200. The Collingwood is pretty much defenseless against CV attacks. While she has a small chance against tier 6 CVs, tier 8 CVs will outright ignore her AA, so definitely make sure you stay near allied AA cover if the CVs become an issue. So learn to just dodge. Cool. Anyway, now moving on to the anti-submarine airstrikes, you get 2 sword airstrikes with 2 depth charges per strike. These bombs do 2,300 damage with an airstrike range of 8 kilometers and a reload time of 37 seconds. They get the same depth charges as the King George V. Now these do have a low damage strikes, but she carries 2 charges, giving her more versatility. She can concentrate them for 1 mega attack or spread out for a better chance to hit. Now, as an advice for airstrikes, usually it's best to spread them out over like a 5-second period or so, because you're hoping that the submarine will DCP, and if he uses a DCP, then you're able to hit him with another strike, and when you have that other strike, you're going to be able to get that perma flood or perma fire. Also, you'll have like a permanent oil spill on top of the water showing where he's at all times, which will also make it where your allies will also know where he's at as well. So just a tip for the submarine airstrikes there, just for in general. Now let's move on to the maneuverability. For the maneuverability, you have a max speed of 25 knots base with a turning radius of 800 meters and a rudder shift time of 14.8 seconds. Now it is a fairly slow, only beating the Nelson and the US BBs. It has an average rudder shift time, average larger turning radius. Now, Collingwood is a decisively mediocre in her maneuverability due to her slow top speed. Her unremarkable turning radius and rudder doesn't help much either. Like Nelson, don't expect to be doing too many fancy maneuvers. Now let's move on to the concealment. Now for the concealment, we have the base of 14.1 kilometers sea with 11 kilometers air. And for the best surface, you have 12.7 kilometers, and the best air is 9.9 kilometers. Now the Collingwood has an average surface detection for her tier, but not ideal due to her poor durability. Now let's move on to the consumables. For the consumables, as a standard BB DCP with a 15-second immunity period and an 80-second reload. It does have the Royal Navy improved repair party, which heals 0.6% damage for 28 seconds, so it heals for about 16.8% base. It does have 4 charges for base, of course. The standard hydroacoustic search is 4 kilometer ship detection and a 3 kilometer torpedo detection with an active time of 100 seconds. It does have a cooldown of 120 seconds with 3 charges. You do also get the unique main battery reload booster, which reduces the reload time by 50%, and is active for 25 seconds. It's enough to fire 1 extra salvo, and it has a cooldown of 120 seconds with 4 charges. It is unusual for a Royal Navy battleship, but she gets access to both the Hydro and MBRB, which is pretty rare for it's pretty rare for Royal Navy battleships. It's very, very unseen. Now let's go over the overall performance in my opinions of the ship. Now it's a high skill floor, definitely medium skill ceiling ship. The Collingwood is the Tier 7 Royal Navy Premium Battleship available in the doubloon bundles or for direct sale at later date. She's an interesting mix of Nelson hull, Duncan guns, Duke of York Hydro, and even some French BB main battery reload booster. While Collingwood's guns are good, her fragile hull lets her down too hard. Even with improved heal and hydro, Collingwood does not last long under fire. She does fine against cruisers, but doesn't want to take hits from other BBs. As a result, she needs to play safer than most other BBs, about 13 kilometers to 17 kilometers. Thankfully, her shell performance is excellent, her AP retaining high penetration at long ranges, using her MBRB at key moments. Collingwood can quickly remove vulnerable ships and create an opportunity for her flank. Once the opposition is softened up, the Collingwood can move in, aided by her hydro and all forward gun arrangement. Overall, Collingwood heavily relies on her guns to offset her poor survivability. In a sense, she plays more like a cruiser than a true battleship. Compared to Nelson, Collingwood is a slightly downgrade due to the lack of super heal. She can certainly dish out damage, but can't take it. That doesn't make a bad ship, however. She does fine in most matches as long as you are careful. Now for randoms, I'd say she's average. She does well punishing same tier and lower tier ships. Struggles heavily when up tier though. Generally weaker than Nelson due to her poor survivability. Now for ranked, I would say it's poor. She's too fragile to stand up to common BB threats like a Synop. Now, as I said earlier, if you already have a Nelson, I don't really think that this ship is worth it. Now, if you're a newer player coming in the game, the Nelson is no longer available. You can only get it from Santa container crates, so you pretty much have to gamble to try to get it. So I wouldn't really recommend trying to gamble for the Nelson. So I would say this is kind of your second best option in the end. But again, totally up to you. Your personal preference. You can pick whatever you like. But yep, that is going to be it. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely let me know in the comments down below. But this is OverlordBou, and I'll talk to y'all later. Oh, also, since this is the end of the video, I'll let you guys watch the remainder of this replay, since I really don't know what else to talk about. So, you guys can enjoy the rest of the replay, and I'll talk to y'all later. Love y'alls. Blah, blah.
Problem solved, sir.
Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.